Now remember this Deno thing, the successor of Node.js? And the real power of Deno is it's built on top of TypeScript, doesn't have any node module folder, doesn't have any package.json, and really fast. So this is kind of a future thing, but we have something new, something fresh. And yes, it is fresh. Yeah, the name is fresh actually. So fresh is a full stack framework of Deno. It's built on the top of Deno using a lot of other things. But before moving into this fresh framework, I just want to give you a very important information. What is the uniqueness of this fresh framework? Because every day, every week, we get a new JavaScript framework. But what is the uniqueness of this fresh? So to tell you about these things, I just want to give you a little story. So let's say you have a laptop. Obviously you have it. Then there is a server somewhere. Then what happens is you are going to send a GET request from your laptop, that means from client side to the server side. If everything is right, you will get a response. If it is a web page request, then you will get the HTML, CSS and the JavaScript. Cool. But the thing you get is really something like this. You get some HTML page which is having more of other things. But in a real life web page, you just have different component. So see here, we have a header as a different component, nav component, section, article, aside and footer. Now what happened is we have these different sections, and when we load the page, there are many ways to have all the component in the web page according to different situations. Now what I mean by that, let's first see what are the three important and major ways to create these component ready, to have these component ready. First is server-side rendering. Second is progressive hydration. And third, the real important thing is island architecture. Now, this is the thing which Fresh is using, and this is the reason I'm giving you all these information, because I want you to understand what is island architecture and how it works, because this is going to help you understanding the Fresh framework. It's a really important thing. So make sure you complete this section at least. Then we will start the Fresh. So let's start with this server-side rendering. In a server-side rendering, we render all the components together and hydrate them. Now, what is hydration? So once you have all the HTML, the CSS and the JavaScript, most important thing is JavaScript, then hydration means all the clickable thing, all the things where we have the events will be binded to the JavaScript function, and that bind or that connection is hydration, making your content or your component interactive in terms of user interaction. So this is all done from the server side. Everything is binded, every JavaScript is set, and then ship everything to the client side. This is called server side rendering. We render everything on the server and then push to the client, and this is really good, no issue on that. But what is the problem? Problem is user need to wait until each and every component is ready on the server and ship everything at once. Yeah, so this is in a way good, but it takes time, so it's bad. By the way, all these images and this information about island architecture is coming from the patterns.dev. You must go there. Cool. So second is hydration, but with a progressiveness. So call it is progressive hydration. Now what it is progressive hydration? We say render all the component, that's okay. Hydrate key component first and then progressively hydrate other. So it's a top-down process. So progressive hydration says that since hydration process is little costly, so what I can do, the hydration architecture of page is top to down. So that means we first hydrate header. Hydrate means we connect all the events and the functions of JavaScript and the HTML. We combine all of them, and then after that we move to the static menu. And doing this is really useful because user will see everything at first, And since user will take little time to interact with the component, in the meantime, we will hydrate every other thing progressively. So this is the real good thing, because it's not doing all the hydration thing in the server end. We do majority of hydration on the client side, and that is really good because it's not taking that much time. So we solve the problem of server side rendering. But then what happened is, suppose we are having this page and user directly go and start interacting with the products, and in the meantime, since it's a top-down process, the products component will not get hydrated. So there is another problem, because it's a top-down process. One by one every component is hydrating. It's a progressive hydration. Yes, it is a good thing, but again, not happy with this. Then comes the real thing, which is island architecture. Now, island architecture says that, hey, static component are server rendered HTML. Script is required only for the interactive component. Let's understand the island architecture. So dynamic region are combination of HTML and script, that means JavaScript. HTML and script capable of rehydrating themselves after rendering. Okay, so here we are having these red color border for the component which need the script, which need the JavaScript thing. So we need JavaScript for the carousel, we need JavaScript for filter, for like config app button, like that. Okay, so each component has its hydration script in the island. So think about these things as a different island. Okay, now each island has its own HTML and own way of hydrating themselves. So there is a script which tells to the island, to the component, that hey, this is the way you need to hydrate yourself. That means you need to connect all the events to the respective HTML components. Okay, and that execute asynchronously. Behind the scene, it's doing everything and independent of any other script. Since these islands are isolated in a way of scripts, that means whatever happening in one island, whatever happening in one component does not affect any other component, any other island. And this is the real power of this island architecture, because every script is different and has different target. Okay, so a performance issue in one component should not affect other, because every component, every island is a different entity. So it's not having any problem with some other island having some issue. Okay, so it says that all the static components, that means a component which doesn't require any JavaScript, rendered on the server and shipped directly. So here you can see the yellow one. So we have a menu HTML. It's a static one. It's not having any interactions, like it doesn't need any JavaScript. Okay, we have this static HTML, just ship it. It's rendered on the server and shipped directly as a normal HTML. And similar product HTML, which is just again a normal HTML. And since these are just normal HTML, shipping them and having them ready on the client side is extremely fast. And since other components which need JavaScript has its own hydration script, so if user interacts with the component, then it says that okay, I'm ready with the hydration, let's do whatever I have to do. So this is the island architecture, which reduces the server side rendering thing, which reduces the progressive hydration and learn from every step and create some real cool stuff. And this powers the fresh framework. Now I think you get it right, what is island architecture. But if you have more hunger to understand about the island architecture, then just go to the patterns.dev, and this is the island architecture article which I read, and I explained you everything. All the images are from them, and they are really cool, amazing team, so you must visit them. Okay, so much talking about the island architecture. We are here to learn about the fresh framework, and let's start this course. So let's now see what we are going to create at the end of this course. What will be the end goal? So here we can see we have a nice little homepage which says welcome to Bitfume's fresh course. It's the fresh framework course. Then we can see we have routing. We can go into about and homepage, and you can see we have nice little styling. So we have some brown color of navbar, we have centered text. All these things are coming from the Tailwind CSS, and it's really cool to have the Tailwind CSS in a non-package.json like package.json kind of project, because Deno project or fresh framework doesn't have the package.json. You cannot do npm thing, like you cannot do npm install. So how do we use the Tailwind? This is a real question. Then comes this about page, which is the routing thing. You can see we have the routes here. So /about, it's called the file system routing. That means whatever file you create, that becomes the route. So to have the about routing, we need the about.ts or js or tsx file. But the real cool part of this application we are creating in the fresh is search GitHub user. See, this is nice styling. Once again, having a search bar, then search button. Click on search button, nothing is happening because we don't have any search field here. But search will work if you give any username. So if I give Sarthak Savvy, which is my GitHub username, click here and you can see we have this image, we have this username. Actually, we get a lot of information. I just show only 2 things here. So if you want, you can search here. And the real cool thing you can see here, if I click on search, this is a post request we are sending to user/GitHub, which is the exact same user/GitHub, and here also users/GitHub. This is the post request or API we are creating, which is going to return me all these informations about the GitHub user from the GitHub API. Okay, this is not just the thing we have to create. We will do a lot more things in between this. So I have also created one form which is submitting with a GET request. So this is handled by Preact, the React thing. It's not React, it's Preact, which is a lightweight 3 KB of library for the doing the React type of thing. So I'm using that here. Okay, so I think this is really cool stuff we are going to create with the fresh framework. Let's now start this real amazing course in the Bitfume's YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe Bitfume's YouTube channel, because this is the way I know that you are liking my videos, and give this video a thumbs up. It's now you have to do it, because once again, the number of subscriber and number of like on the video encourages me to create these kind of videos every week for you. Let's start this fresh course. Okay, so what is fresh? Already you know, but let's understand some of the important things in fresh. So first important thing is fresh is a full stack web framework of Deno. So it's a full stack. That means it's having a front end and the server end both on this framework. That's a really awesome thing. Next, fresh is a next generation web framework. Why it's next generation? Because it uses some futuristic concepts which are not really implemented in everywhere, but have real benefit, just like speed, reliability, and simplicity. That's why it's a next generation framework. It uses Preact and JSX for rendering and template, both on the server and on the client. I'm talking about the Preact. It's not a React. So what is a Preact? Preact is a very lightweight 3 KB library which has all the features, most of the important features like hooks, the components, the JSX, and it's totally like a React, but it's called Preact. Preact, so Preact. But we know fresh is a framework of Deno. So question comes in my mind, what is Deno? So if you don't know about Deno, its name says Deno. I was calling it Deno before, but it's Deno. So Deno is a JavaScript TypeScript and WebAssembly runtime. It's not a language, it's not a framework, it's a runtime. Just like Node.js is a runtime, Node.js is not a framework, Node.js is not a language, it's a runtime. That means you run all these like JavaScript, TypeScript and WebAssembly using Deno on the different platforms. So Deno is a JavaScript, TypeScript and WebAssembly runtime with secure defaults and a great user experience. Yeah. So Deno is created by Randall. Now, who is Randall? Randall is this person. But what's so important about this person? Ryan had created this Node.js. So Deno is created by the same person who has created Node in 2019. But since he was not happy with the way Node is doing things, so it says, okay, I'm not happy with these 10 things of Node, I'm going to create another thing. And he just shuffle the name, so they call it Deno. So from Node it becomes Deno. It's a little introduction about Deno. But coming to the Fresh, so what is the features of Fresh? Why you should use it on and all? So first is it has a just-in-time rendering on the edge, just-in-time rendering at the same time it render. Island-based client hydration for maximum interactivity. I have already explained you what is island architecture. So it says island-based hydration. Now it has zero runtime overhead. No JavaScript shipped to the client by default. As I said, there is no JavaScript shipped. It's a huge win. Why? Because all the web page, the speed reduce because of the heavy JavaScript we need to ship to the client. So that's really win. No build step. Yes, there is no building thing. Whatever you write, you ship it directly, you run it directly. And this is the real power of Deno and Fresh framework. Now, no configuration necessary. As I said, whatever you write, you ship it. So since there is no build step, there is no much of the configuration needed. And at last, TypeScript is supported out of the box. This means it's super developer friendly. And if you don't know about the TypeScript, check out the course I have created on the TypeScript, which is absolutely for the beginner and intermediate people. Go and check out for the TypeScript videos. Okay, so let's move to the next step in Fresh. Now, how do we get started with Fresh framework? So you need to go to this website, which is called fresh.deno.dev. Now, then if you scroll down at the bottom, you will find this script to run to have the Fresh project, the Fresh new project. It's not Fresh, like I mean to say Fresh framework, like you get it. So if you want to have a Fresh framework in your system, you first need the Deno runtime or Deno CLI. This means time to go to the terminal. Here we are. On the terminal, I just write Deno, and if I hit enter, it says command not found. So I need to get the Deno CLI on my system. How do I get it? So if you are here, you can just click on this to get the CLI, or you can just go to the deno.land and installation part. You will find all the ways to have the Deno CLI in your system. There are ways for every kind of operating system. I'm on the Mac, so I will use the brew to install it. So I will go on the terminal and hit enter to install this Deno in my system. It's not a big package, it will be very fast and will get here in my system very soon. Boom, it's here. So now if I say Deno, this time you can see I am getting this interactive shell. So I can do something like 2 + 2, it gets 4, and I don't want to do anything more. So I just press Control D, or I can write the close to get out of this. But if I say Deno -help, you will see I have a lot of command I can use with this Deno. So when I said Deno, it has created REPL, read, evaluate, print, and loop. And then we can do more of the things with these sub commands. Now we need to create a new fresh framework in our system. For that, I can go on the fresh.deno.dev, copy this command and paste it. So this command says Deno run with some A flag, with some R flag. This is the thing. Get something from here and give the name as my project. Okay, that's cool. And if I run it, it's now going to do something and it's downloading, and then it's asking me some question. It says, do you want to use Tailwind? I don't know what it is, but it says it is for styling. We will see that later. It's given for this thing, but the default is no. So I'm going to say just enter, so it will take the default as no. Then say, do you use VS Code? I say yes, I use it. And now it says manifest has generated for 3 route, 1 island. We will see what it is, but let's just go into my project and start with the VS Code. Okay, so I am here with the VS Code. That's great. And what next? To start the server, we just need to say Deno task start, and it will start on localhost 8000. So let's open this terminal, integrated terminal. You can go from terminal and say the new terminal, just like this. And here we are. Just write it down and hit enter. And very soon we will have this localhost 8000. So just go on the browser, search for localhost 8000, and here we are. You can see we have this nice little application where we have this counter. So if I say +1, it's doing this. If I say -1, it's doing that too, and everything is here. Okay, it says you can start exploring this, and since we have it, we need to celebrate. We have the first ever fresh project in our system, and we are running it directly here. Now it's time to understand what this file structure is. Now, to understand the directory structure of fresh, first you need to understand that this is actually a Deno framework. Now, since it's a Deno framework, so we get started with Deno.json. Now think about Deno.json as a package.json. So here we have the task where we have this start, and remember we ran this command Deno task start. So this is the task name. If I change it to run, so then if I try, it says hey, it's not there. That means you need to say Deno task run. So that's the simple thing. Let's get back to start, and then we have this imports. So think about imports that as the dependencies of this project, and for that we have imports underscore map.json. Let's go there. So we have this import underscore map. Here we have all the dependencies. So since it's a fresh project, so we are importing the fresh. Then we need the Preact for the templating. So we have Preact related things. But if you see properly here inside the Deno.json, we are actually running behind the scene Deno run an application with a watch command of where we are watching. We are watching on a static file. Then we have a comma, then we are watching inside the routes directory, and then we say run this file dev.ts. So since this is a development process, so that's why we have dev.ts. Where is dev.ts? It's here. So we started with the Deno.json, but we now have the information about dev.ts. What this is doing, this is importing dev function from fresh, and then it's running this function with the await command. And the important thing is it says you need to pass this main.ts. So from dev.ts we move to the main.ts. Let's see what we have inside the main.ts. Now inside the main.ts, first we are importing the start command, start function from the fresh server, because we need to start the server, and then we are also importing the manifest. This manifest we are importing from this again another file from our project called fresh.gen.ts. Where is that? It's here. Okay, so let's now move there. Okay, so we have this fresh, and this is a real file, and the important thing is that you don't have to edit this file. It's automatically managed by fresh, and here we have all the information about the routes we have, the islands we have, and the base URL. Okay, so it says that we have the index route, API/joke route, and then a dynamic route with a name and the counter island. Where is all these? It's inside here. See, we have this routes and we have this islands, and I already explained you island architecture. So inside the island architecture, you can see we have the counter island. So we call it counter island. We are not calling a component, but you can just think about as a component, but it's the island. Okay, now, so we have this two important routes, index and a dynamic route called name. We will see how this dynamic route works, but from here, from this index, we are getting all these things. So when we have this fresh logo, this text, and this counter is coming from here. So image, the logo, then this text, and this counter island. So we are importing this counter island from here. Now, this is not a React, it's a Preact. So that's why you need to import this H from this Preact, which is making sure you will be able to write the JSX in your Preact islands. Okay, so if I change it, welcome to fresh course by Bitfumes. As soon as I save it, I need to save without formatting, and like here, and then you should see how I have to start the server, run. Oh, it's a start. So now you can see we have here, and now if I say a dot at the last, as soon as I save it, it refreshes very fast. Okay, so I think you get the point, like what all these files are. Every file is related to one by one. The entry point is deno.json, where we have the command, then we move to dev.ts, then main.ts, then fresh.ts, and here we have all the information. The cool part about this file is just keep it open, and then go to the routes and create a new route called test.tsx. And as soon as we create this route, and make sure it's not React. So now we have this test route, and you can see as soon as we save, since we have the server running, it has added this test route into our fresh.gen.ts file. And this is why it says that you don't have to edit this file. This file is managed by the fresh. As soon as you add and remove any file, it will do the needful things here. So that's why if we go to /test, boom, it's here. But there are a lot more things about the routes. Let's now move to the routing thing. You may have this question like, from where I'm learning all these things, since this fresh is a fresh new framework, and nobody has created any real project with this till now. So I learned everything from the documentation. So if I go to the documentation, we have third one for create a route. So let's click on this create a route, and here we have all the information about creating routes. So it has given everything, but let's see how we are going to learn about it. So in the last episode, we have created this test.tsx. I'm going to remove it, and now I have this and this file. So once again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to empty out each and everything from here, and also from this island. Okay, so you can see the fresh is having nothing here. So now what happened if I go here? It says, hey, something is wrong. Even the homepage, you don't have anything. But the cool part, you can see we have actually 404. That's good because the server is still running. That's great. Now, I'm going to start with a new route. And remember, when we want to create a route for the base URL like localhost 8000, then you need to create that route name with the index. And now we can say it's a TSX because we are using the TypeScript and we are writing the JSX. So command TSX, and we have to create a Preact function. Now, instead of Preact function, I'm going to create a React component, but I will remove the React. That's a shortcut I use. And then it says, hey, JSX is not having any type. So what actually we have to do, we have to first say import h from Preact. Okay. Now this is not going to be useful until we define it here. So we need to say, hey, JSX is going to be the h thing. Okay. And here we also need to do the @. Now, as soon as I define this @ JSX is going to be the h thing, some magic has been done, and you can see there is no TypeScript error. And this is all about a simple Preact template or a route we have created. Since we have the base URL route with the index.tsx, if I now go and reload this page, you can see we have this index written here because we are returning index. Now, instead of this, let's have a h1 and we can say welcome to Bitfume's fresh course. Okay, so make sure you do not save if you have any React related thing. So it's when I save it, just remove this import. So I don't have to save format. I just do the save without formatting. Okay, this is just for me, not for you. Anyways, so you can see we have this. Now, what happened when we change the route? We want to create another route. So I will create a page called about.js. Yes, I'm doing the JSX this time. So once again, I'm creating a new file, and inside this I'm writing the JSX, and make sure we have this JSX as h and import h from Preact. Okay, so now we have this about. Let's go here, go to /about, and it's not having it. And this is happening because, see, we are returning a JSX. So what we have to do, we need to make sure it's a JSX file. Either you can use the TSX if you want to use the TypeScript, or you can use the JSX. So when we use the JSX, you can see we have the about. But what about this documentation which says you can also have a JS or TS? Later on, when we learn about some more concept, then we will see how we can just have the JS and to make sure this route will going to work. For now, this is okay and working absolutely fine. Oops, I saved it. I need to make sure I have this Preact import. So like this. Okay, so this is for the normal routing thing. But we also have the dynamic routing. To create a dynamic route, we need to create a file with the square bracket and then JSX or TSX, whether you want TypeScript or not. Then here, what should be the name or what should be the dynamic thing? I want to have a user underscore ID. I want to have the user underscore ID here. So then I need to create a Preact. So I can just do this. @JSX is h, import h from Preact, and now you can see we need to call it a proper name. We cannot call with brackets, so we can say user and just user. But then I want to show this thing, so let's see if this is going to work or not. So then I go here on the slash of about. Let's see, is it working? Yes, it's working. But when I say Sarthak here, you can see the URL will be like this. So localhost 8000 /Sarthak. If I hit enter, you can see we are returning the user underscore ID, which is coming from here. But since it's a dynamic routing and we are providing the name, so what should be the way to get this name from the URL? Because it's a dynamic routing. So generally, if you are familiar with the React, so we should have some kind of props here. So just have the props, and for now I'm saying it's any to make a TypeScript happy, and then I just console log the props. Okay, so then I save this, and always have to save without formatting, in my case only, not sure about you. So here if I reload this page, you can see we are not getting that console log here. Why is that? I saved it. Anyways, we are not getting it. But what about here? Yes, you can see we are getting on the server side, because you know the Deno Framework is doing things on the server side, having the island architecture. So here it says that, hey, this route I'm going to create, I'm going to render it and do all the hydration related things on the server and ship it directly. So that's why we have the when we reload this page, instead of getting inside this console, because it's not doing these things on the client side, it's doing on the server side. So here we have the props. Now inside the props we have the params, plus we have the URL related information, plus route, and if we are passing any data. So since we need this params, and then inside the params we have the user ID, so we can say props dot params dot user underscore ID. That's it. And one more time, if I go here, clear this, reload this page, and boom, Sarthak is there. So we just need to show this from there to here like this. If I do this thing, go reload, you can see Sarthak is there. Now if I say 1, then 1 is there, the user ID. So this is how we get the value for the dynamic routing. Also, you can make sure you just destructure the params from here, and if you want you can provide some of the typing system here. So what should be the better way of doing that? So what we can do, we can say import props. I can simply say from Preact, it's page prop. So I can say, is it like page prop? Since I'm not that familiar with the Preact, let's go to the documentation and go to the dynamic routing, and it says, hey, you need to import the page props from fresh. Okay, that's the thing. So instead of from Preact, I need to import it from fresh. So $fresh slash server.ts and page props, and this should be the page props, and we don't have the props, so we just say params. Cool, everything should be fine, and yep, we are getting 1 there. So this is the thing. You can also read from this documentation. I highly recommend you to go to the documentation, because documentation is the king anytime. But next thing is, you can see we are using the user ID, and when we grow our application, it could be more user related things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a user directory. Inside that, I will going to pass this like file here, move this file here, and instead of user ID, I just say ID, because it makes sense. If this file is inside the user directory, then it should be like user and then ID. You can make it users if you like here. So users and then ID. So now we are calling this function as a user. You can also call it ID, but it's going to stay the same, but the route is now changed. It should be like /users/ID. And if you're not sure what should be the routing, you can go to the freshgen.ts, because everything is here, and now it says like this. So users/the ID. Okay, so let's go here, and this time it's not going to work, because now I have to say users/the ID, and we are having it, but we are having some difficulty. What is the difficulty here? We are returning, things are right. Okay, so it should be ID, not the user ID. Okay, so we are getting this user ID once again back from our URL, and this is all once again given in the documentation. But I told you that sometime if you want to have like user.ts or user.js, it can also work, but right now it's not working. How we can make sure it's going to work? Let's now see. Here we have created 3 routes, one for homepage index, another is about, and then is the user ID. The first thing I will do is make sure it's a TSX because of consistency. Then I want to have a navigation system between them, like how we can move from one page to another page. For that, I need a layout file. But where should I create it? It's not an island, it's not route. So just for me, I'm going to create a components directory. Inside this, I'm going to create a layouts.tsx file, and then we should make sure we have this, and here we want to have a children. So children, and that comes from the props like this. And for now I'm just using the any because I don't know what should be the real what should be the real type for this, but for now we are having it, and we can use this layout file inside our routes. So how do we do that? We just need to change from div to layout, and we need to import this layout. So layout from, and it's going to be like this, and that's good. So then I go to the layout and create a navbar. So I create a navbar. Inside one we have a href which should be on the home page. Then we should have one about page, so slash about, and then slash users slash 2, let's say user 2. This is the thing, and save this file, and let's go, and you can see we have these routes. So if I click on about, cool, we go to the about page. If I click on user 2, we have user 2, just like this. So we need to go back. So let's make sure we have the layout in every file. So here also we should say, hey, we have this layout, and I can copy the import and paste it here, save this file, and finally here also. Cool. Oops. Yeah, here layout like this, and that's done. But here we need to go up a directory one more time so that we will have proper import. Okay, so it should be available everywhere. That's good. So this is the way we can move into the pages, but you can see it's not a single page application. Although we are using the Preact, but Fresh doesn't give you the single page thing. It's all server rendered thing, but with the island architecture. So that's why you will not able to see the single page behavior, but it's going to be super fast because it's island architecture, and it's SEO friendly because you will find all the code here inside of this page. Okay, so this is good, but what next? Next is this custom handler. Now, since Deno provide everything to be done on the server end and then pass you the real HTML with the island thing, so it should have one thing which should be like fetching the data from the backend or doing something and then preparing your template. What I mean by that? Now, suppose on this users and with ID, suppose we have this params user ID, but what we can do with this ID? Generally, we need to fetch the user from the DB and then pass that user information here so that we can show the user inside this template. So how we can do that? Then comes our custom handlers. So what is custom handlers? It says that handlers are function in the form of request response that are called when the request is made to a particular route. It's simple, like you need to create something which should be run before creating this template, before creating this JSX thing. Okay, so how does this work? Let me zoom this out and see, this is really good line which is saying that to define a named route and to define a handler in a route module, one must export it as a named export. It's not a default export with a name of handler. Okay, that's good, we get it. Then it says handler can be of two types. One is a plain function, like you can return handler as a normal function, or you can have a plain object where each property is a function by the HTTP method. Okay, if you're not getting it, let me explain you how you write the handler. So first you say export, then const, and first I say handler. It's going to be a type of handlers, and this handler come from fresh, so I need to import it. Then as I said, as the documentation said, it can be of two things: a normal function which is catching all the method, or a named or an object with a different name of HTTP methods. First, I'm going to create a normal function. Okay, so this function is going to return what? First, let's see what we get inside this function. We get request and we get the context. We don't need the request, so I'm just using the underscore here. We will use the context, so we say context dot render. So basically what we are saying that hey, run this thing and render all these methods and everything on the server end. So I just make sure it's a arrow function, and then I just save this file and see is there any error. So if I run it, no error, but we didn't get any information like is it working or not. So we are on JavaScript, so we can just say log, and inside the log we can say working. Okay, as soon as I save this, obviously it has refreshed the page, and that's why we can see we have this working. If I once again do a refresh, it's once again says working. That's good. Now what happened when we do a post request? This is for the get request. So let's go to the insomnia we have. So inside this insomnia, you can see we have this localhost 8000/user/2. I'm giving a get request. If I send it, you will see that we have working here. Okay, now clean this and then once again go here, and this time I will send a post request. If I say send, you can see once again it's working. What if I do the delete request or any request? So patch request, it's working. So we don't want to do this thing. So what we have to do, if you don't want to catch every request, instead of returning this function, you can return an object, and inside this object you can define your method. If I say get method, which is once again getting the request and the context, we don't need request, and this will return the context dot render, and this is the only thing we have to do. Okay, so let's save this file and see if this is working or not. Once again we need to do the log to see working. I can say get is working. Okay, so it says get is working because it already refreshed here. Go to the insomnia. Inside this insomnia I can give the get request once again, and one more time it says get is working. But what if I change it to post request? So if I send the post request, now it says no body returned from the response. That means it says simply method not allow. So let's allow this method. How do we do that? We just need to do one thing, which is we create a post, and then we need to give comma here because it's an object of different function, and now I say post is working. Okay, so if I now click on send, you can see we are getting the 200, and this means if I see post is working. So this is the way we can create the handlers. But then question comes in my mind, what this handlers will going to do. Now this handler is good, we are doing something on the server end. What is the real power of this? So suppose we have some DB related things and we want to fetch users from DB. This is going to be an asynchronous process. It will take some time, so we need to do await here. And if you are using await here, we need to make sure this is going to be the async function. Now that's good, but suppose we get the user from the DB, then how do we use that user? It's super easy. Whatever you return from here, you can get on this template, on this JSX. How? Let's suppose we have const users, and this is an array of user which is having name as Sarthak. Sarthak, like this, and another name, let's say Bitfumes. Okay, or maybe I will use Anki. Okay, now we have these two users, and now I will return all the user inside this render function. See, this is going to be a real magic. So here we go, reload, nothing happened. But if I change this back to the page, it's going to be the page, and I can say page.params.id. but if I log page here, save this file, and you can see now params URL, but at the last we can also get data. This data is coming from our custom handler, and handler is returning whatever we said. We said that, hey, return this users array, and we are getting this users array. So we can just say, hey, I want the user. So I can destructure once again. So params underscore data, comma data. So make sure we are not using this. We just want to do the mapping. So we say data dot map. Inside this we get the user, and then we return a p tag. Not like this, we return p tag like this, and then we say, hey, user dot name we need to return. And for now we can just say any once again, because we are not caring about this TypeScript for now. Okay, so everything is good, and you can see here we have Sarthak and Anki. So this is all about our custom handler, how we can create, what are the ways we need to create, and what is the real use case of this handler. See, we are having this response handler. We can do any custom header changing. We can also do any caching thing, anything you want to do on the server end, that is here. One last thing I want to do with this custom handler is, suppose you have a lot of code here inside this custom handler, and this is actually a JSX file. We are using id.tsx. Now it's good to have the custom handler for a get request inside this JSX file. But what if we really want to have, let's say, a post request or a patch request? Then this file is not responsible for that. So what we can do, we can actually create the similar kind of file, but with ts only. So I said the id with a bracket .ts, and then I will say export const handler, and this can be a type of handlers. We can import once again this handlers from fresh servers. Okay, this is good. And then we say that, hey, I want to have a post request. But this post request will return a new response. And what we can return from this response? We can return this kind of user. So once again, this is just an example what we are doing here. But since this is just a array, so we need to say json.stringify for users, and we said that, hey, this is going to return the response. Okay, so everything is fine, but we have some issue. Yes, we have the issue like this. Okay, so we have this post request when we do some ID related things. So here we have the get request, which is returning the Sarthak and Anki. And if I do a post request on this with the content type as application JSON, and click on send, you can see we are returning this data. So if I change this to Sarthak S, save this file, resend it, we are having this Sarthak S. Okay, so this is the way you can actually create a API. So now, since if you want to create this kind of API, if you want to have this exact URL structure, that's totally fine. But if you really want to have any API, you can create an API directory, and then you can create this kind of file which is having the exact name. It's a dynamic route once again, and you can put everything you have here inside this file, cut it, and then paste this thing, and boom, you will have something like API, and then 2, maybe we can have something, so it's returning the exact thing. So this is the way we can have not only just the full HTML pages, we can also create the APIs with this custom handler thing. Handler is real power of this fresh framework, and you can do anything with this. Now let's work on real data fetching thing with this custom handler, and they have given a very nice example. We can use this like GitHub username and getting the user details, and then we can show the name and avatar and all other things. Okay, let's work on this thing first. So we already have this user with this ID. Now I can make it with the username, and then we can use this username to fetch from the GitHub API. So when I do get request, I just need to say const user is equal to await of, I'm going to use the fetch, which is going to do this thing. Okay, and here we need to get the username. How do we get the username? Now we get the user, so we should have the user here inside this data. So instead of doing this, let's try this and see what's going to happen. So we are here, and we can go, it says data.map is not a function. That means inside the data we are not getting proper response. For now I just say hello so that it will work. Yes, it's working. And now I will log the data and see what we are having inside the data. It says not found. Okay, so why it says not found? Because it's having username as 2. So we need to first handle this thing also. So first we can simply say that if response dot status is equal to, I can triple equal 404, then instead of returning this we need to return 404. But we can simply say context dot render with null. Okay, this is the simple thing. That means we are passing nothing. In this case, instead of getting not found, we are getting null. Or if you are looping through the user, then you can do anything you want like this. But if it is successful, then we can just show the user. So let's search for a GitHub user, Sarthak Savvy, and it's done. But we should get something here. It's not getting once again. So if we do this thing, let's see what's going to happen. Once again it says not found. Okay, so something is not good here. Users, then user. Before this, I can see what we are getting as a username. So username, I think we are getting wrong. Oh, inside the username we have the username. So I can do something like this, destructure the username. Oh, now it's working, and you can see now we are getting the user detail. Cool. So this is the mistake I did. And now we have the user, so we can just say we have the user login, then we have the user avatar and URL. Okay, so first I can say the name, and name is data.login. Then we should have the avatar, so image tag, img tag with the source of data.avatar URL, and alt will be data.login once again. And I want to move everything inside an anchor tag, which is going to lead me to this profile. So I can simply say href will be data.url, no, not URL, data.html URL. Okay, so data.html URL. Okay, and make sure we have the target for underscore blank, which means open in a new tab. And this is my profile. If I click here, I am going to open my profile here. That's good. So we are fetching it. That means if I try to have bitfumes, FUMES, yep, we have it, and everything is working absolutely fine. So we are able to fetch the data from the custom handler. We are doing it. But what I want, instead of writing from here, I want to have an input field where I type the username, and then if I click on search button or find the user, then we will show these details. Let's work on this project. First, I will change the URL structure. So instead of doing this users and the dynamic routing, I just want to change it to GitHub user, or simply users.github. So suppose I want to have different kind of user information, so this is just for GitHub users. So I say this is a GitHub, and now I don't want to do this from our custom handler thing. So here first I want to have a input field. Okay, so inside the div, or maybe inside a section, I can create, inside this I can create an input field where I should have the type as text, and then placeholder will be like enter GitHub user name, or I can say search GitHub user by username. Okay, that's good. And then here we should have another section which will do all the looping of the user, or not looping but showing all the user detail. So we already have it, and we can just say like this. Okay, now since we don't have the data, and this is not coming from our custom handler, I'm going to remove that, and I will call it user, and then I'm going to create a state. So I say const user comma set user. This is going to be use state, and this should come from Preact. So from Preact I will import this use state, and it's not exporting from here. So actually it is coming from Preact/hooks. Okay, so we are having this state, and then we say that this is an empty, and this does not have any field. So we are okay with this. We don't have any issue. Is there any issue on the server? No, everything is fine. So go here and search for user/GitHub, and yep, we have it. Let's have a simple form, and this form is going to be having a button which is having a type of submit, and then we say search. Okay, and then this is not having anything. Cool. So we have this, and we click here, it's just going to submit the form. But what I want actually, instead of doing this from state, let's do it in a different way. So let's get back our data, and we can only show this when we have something in the data. So data, if we have data dot name, then show these things. Okay, this is good. And now we are back with these things. So if I reload, everything is working fine. It should submit the form. But now what we are going to do, when we submit this form, where it's submitting, when we don't have anything, it will submit on the get request of our handler. So this is the handler, but I'm not going to uncomment it because I want to write it from scratch so that we can understand like how it's working. So async of get, inside get we get request and the context, and for now I just want to return a wait of context dot render. I'm not returning anything, but for now I just say log context. So see, we are having these things in the context, but if I say Sarthak Savvy, click on search, do we get anything here? No, we don't have anything. Let's try with the request. Do we have anything in the request? Once again, close it and go back. It should be available here. So click on search and search for Sarthak Savvy. So Sarthak Savvy, we are not having that information here. This could be happen because if you see on the input field, we don't have any name. So let's say name for Q. Q stands for query. Now once again, if I go and search for Sarthak Savvy, click here, it should give us, but we forgot to reload the page, and then search for Bitfumes. Click on search, and this time you can see we have the Q query as Bitfumes from this URL, and now we have the URL, so we can get this query from here. So how we can do that? So we say request.url. If I do this, you can see we are just getting this URL. Now from this URL we can get the search term. So we can say search params dot get, and getting the Q thing. But first we need to make sure we are parsing this as a URL. So const URL is equal to new URL like this. And is it URL? Yeah, it's capital URL, and then we say Q is equal to this URL dot search params dot get, and now I just log the Q. Okay, so you can see now we are getting Bitfumes. Okay, because this is already having this here. So whenever we save this file, this is re-rendered and the page refreshes and we get this here. Okay, now since we have this Q, we can use this await thing. So we can actually copy from here till here. So let's do this and uncomment it. So you can see instead of username, we just need to write the Q here, which is like this. So we are fetching it. If we have it, then return the user. Otherwise we return the data. That's cool. So save this and remove this commented handler thing, and we don't need this param. We just want the data from this props, and everything should be fine. And you can see we are having it here. So let's search for Sarthak Savvy. Click on search, and yes, we have the search result here. So you can search for anything. So if I search for Laravel, I remember the Laravel. If I say Deno, is there any Deno? There is some Deno thing. Okay, so we get this kind of things, and it's really amazing. And let's just do one more thing, change the navbar. So I will go to the layout, and inside this I can simply say GitHub, or I can say search GitHub users. Okay, save this file, close it, and now we have this search GitHub user, which is not having, what happened? Oh, it's a slash user, so like users slash GitHub. So once again click here. Yeah, we are back on this search page, and once again click submit this. Boom. Wow, this is so easy and really amazing. We don't have any we don't have much of the JavaScript thing here happening. It's all about this, and we are done with this. Right now we are submitting the form, to the server, and then server do the things and handler with taking care of everything. And we are using the search query. But instead what I want to do some front-end related things. So I want to make it interactive, have the user experience better by not submitting it, and handled by Preact. First, I'm going to create a new island thing. So what is the island? Island is a component which is having all the user related information, and you already know about the island architecture, so it's going to be really useful. Create a file called search github user.tsx. Since this is going to be a Preact thing only, so you can just create a function which is going to return the JSX. And remember, this is just going to be a Preact. It's having here, and we can just move everything we have inside this from here to here, cut and paste it. Now, as I said, this is not going to have any handler, because handler will only attach to a route or to a pages. Now just say search github user. This is the component or island I'm going to have it here. So import from from here, actually it's going to be island, then search github user. Okay, so let's go to the search github user, and it need various things. First, it says that, hey, you need to have these Preact related things. So also this hook I need there. So I just cut and paste it. Now we should see we don't have this data. So I need to create a use state to have our user. Const user comma set user is equal to use state, which I already have imported from Preact hooks. Then I will use this user information to show all these things. So first I will say that, hey, if user details are here, then show it. It has this kind of structure because it says that, hey, JSX can only have one element. So I need to create a div which is holding everything here. Now this is working absolutely fine, and now we can move forward. Now the real important thing is we don't want this form to submit. So we say on submit. Let's have on submit function. Create an on submit function. So let's create an on submit function which will get the e as the event, and then say e dot prevent default, and then I say alert something. Okay, it should prevent the submission of this form, and let's try this. It says React is not defined. Where is the React we are using? Here everything seems okay. Let's save this file once again and see. Now it's good. Okay, it's working. Cool. So then if I click on search, you can see we are having this alert. This means our what happened? Yeah, so our on submit function is working. So we are preventing the submission of this form. Then what we need to send a fetch request here. So then we say const response is equal to fetch, and fetching from not directly from the GitHub user API. We are going to create a post request on the users/GitHub, and see, this is going to be really amazing. We have a route, we have a users, we have a github.tsx. Here we just have a get request. Do you remember we can also create a post request? So we are going to like create a API kind of thing. So here we have the post request. So just need to define that method, methods, or what is that? Okay, yeah, here it's like a method. Then we say post, and that's good, but it should be await, and we need to make sure it's async. Then we say const data is equal to await of response.json, and let's log the data. See what's going to happen. So save this file, and let's go here, open the console, and see the real magic. And let's click on search. First it says, hey, method not found. Yeah, we know that there is no post method for /user/GitHub. It's only get request. So let's go to the github.tsx, and here we can create our post request. So first I say, hey, this is going to be with a comma and a post request. Now what we need to return a response. This is going to be a API kind of thing, which is just going to return the response, not rendering the page. This is really important. So new response, and then suppose const we have a user, and user is having login as Sarthak Sevi, just a random thing. Then I say json.stringify of user, and that's good. And we don't need all these things, so I just remove this. So this is very simple. What we have a very simple we have very simple API kind of thing with the post request. So now we have to do it without async, because we are not using any await right now. So this is good. And let's now see if I click on search. Cool. Now we can see we have the login as Sarthak Sevi. Whatever we are defining here, we are getting from this front end related things only. We are not doing any back end things, so it's all front end. There's really cool thing. After this method, we can also send the data or body. So body will have a queue, like a query search. So search term is Sarthak Sevi, okay, for now. And what it says, okay, some bad thing it's saying, because we need to do json.stringify of this object, and then we should get something here. So let's log the context and open it like here, click on submit, and we should see here, oh, it should be on the request because it's from the request. So once again click on search, and how do we get it? Let's do one thing. First I will make once again a sync, and then I say await of response.json. Give me the response JSON, which will give me the body. So click on search, and here we get the queue. So if I say just give me the queue from this JSON, can I do this? Really don't know if I can do this. No, I cannot do this. So I need to first fetch const body is equal to this. Then I say body.queue, which is the query string. Search, and yeah, we are getting it. So then comes the real power of this. So once again get all these things from there, and then I say paste it, and instead of just queue I say body.queue, and then if there is user, then I need to say new response, or I can do one thing. I can create a variable called let user is equal to empty object. Okay, I cannot create block scope user. That's not a good thing. Anyways, so this is okay. So we can just say response with null. Okay, and we can also define, I think, the status. For this we need to say a status inside this object as 404, and that's good. Then if we have the user, then we get this user like here, and we return this user because of like this, and everything is fine. So we have created an API. We don't need context. This is just our API, and now we are doing it. Then we can set the user when we have the user fine. So say if response dot okay, then I can say set user, and user will be first it should be like here, the data. Okay, so let's log it and search. We have the user detail. This means you can see we have everything here. And now final thing we need to do is make this interactive by writing the username inside this input field. So we need to bind this input field. So can we do on change? I'm not sure about the Preact, so I say handle input. Not sure about this, just trying this. It is similar to React, so that's why. So I say I need to create another thing for query. So I say q and set q, and initially it's empty thing, and I need to say, hey, the value is going to be q. Okay, and then I say set q is equal to e.target.value. okay, so save this file one more time, reload this page, and we are here. Let's say bitfumes, and finally we need to send not this, we just need to send the q. Okay, so once again reload this page. I search for bitfumes, click on search, and yeah, you can see it's working. Sarthak Savvy, and click on search, it's working. And this is all front-end related things, but we have the Deno thing. Oh, a lot of amazing things we have done, but we can do further good things. We can extract this into a dedicated file called API file if you want, or if you really want to have that here, you can just create a github.tsx, github.ts only, not tsx, and then we can just cut it from here, and then we say, hey, export const handler is going to be the handlers, and this is only for the post request. So we need to import this handler from fresh, and finally it should work. You can see we don't have the post request inside this handler, and we can try. So bitfumes, click on search, we are getting everything is still fine. If you want, right, if you want, you can move all these things from here also. So maybe if we want, we can cut it and move it here if we want once again. So since we are not using this get request, we can totally remove it, and we don't need the handler here. So then if I remove the handlers, then we don't need these things. We can remove unused import, we don't need this prop, everything is fine. So then we also remove this import, everything seems fine. I just restart the server so that everything will be recompiled, and search for bitfumes, click search, cool, and Sarthak Savvy, search. Wow, this is the real power of Fresh, the Deno framework. I really like to have some styling here, so let's work on this styling. We reached to an amazing point here inside this Fresh framework, and now I want to add the Tailwind styling, but this is not going to have any npm thing. So how we can add the Tailwind? Remember, when we have created the project, we get one question related to Twind. So what is Twind? So let's search for twind.dev, and it says smallest, faster, most featured, complete Tailwind in JSS solution. Whatever it is, let's see how we can use it. So here I have this Fresh, and then I will say Deno create a test project. So we will see what exactly we get. Now it says, do you want the Twind? By default it says no, but I want to have it, and let's create the project. So I say my test, go inside it and open this with code. Why I'm doing this? Because now this time you can see in the imports.json we have three important things: @Twind, then Twind, and Twind slash. Some of these things are really important, so we will use these. Then if you go on this utils directory, we have a twind.ts file where we have all the configuration related to the Tailwind CSS. So this is again very easy. Then if we go on the routes, on the index, you can see we are importing the Twind, and then how we are using the Twind. So just say class tw, and inside write the Tailwind class. Okay, so this is really good. And do we have anything inside here? Yes, inside here also we have the Tailwind. So what I just want to see how this is looking. So I just uh, kill the server for our project and then run the Deno task here to see how this is working. So it's downloading first because this is the first time I'm running with Tailwind. So now we have it. So you can see we have nice little like centered element we have here. And if I say Sarthak, yeah, hello Sarthak, it's having all the Tailwind CSS stylings. So I think here it's not there. Yeah, now here you can see we have all little Tailwind styling. Okay, so I got the point, like how we have to do these things. So let's kill the server for this one, and then let's see how we can import the Tailwind. It's not given in the documentation, but I thought this is really cool stuff. So copy these things and go to our project, open the imports, give a comma and paste it, save this file, and then we need to create the utils directory. So utils, inside this we need to create a tailwind.ts. so copy these things inside the tailwind. So tailwind.ts, paste everything, and here we are importing everything from exporting const, the configuration, and exporting everything from the Tailwind. That's good. So since we have all these things, now what I will do, I will first run the server and see if something is working. See, although we have it, but it's not using it, it's not showing that it is running. Why? Because if I go on our home page, first let's say import tw from Tailwind. Okay, now how do we add the classes? So I can say class is going to have Tailwind, and inside this I forgot how to add it, so let's go here. Yeah, it's that same. Okay, so it should be from @Tailwind, not just the Tailwind. So @Tailwind, and here I say text to Excel and text center. This is the Tailwind classes. If you don't know about Tailwind, it's very simple, you should try it. So now we have some issue. It says document is not defined, Tailwind is not defined. So one more time, if I run it, it says it's not defined, we have some issue. To solve this, once again go to the project where we have everything, and inside this main.ts you can see we have a lot of Tailwind related configuration. So for now I just copy everything from here and paste it in our main.ts because we need the Tailwind information. It's not given in the documentation, that's why we have little issues. So once again let's try to run the Deno, and it says it's running, and if I rerun, yes, you can see we have the Tailwind styling. So let's do the styling on our layout also. So import once again Tailwind from @Tailwind. Cool. And then I need to say that, hey, this is going to be a nav, and nav need a Tailwind class of let's say width of full, padding x of 4, padding y of 3, background of yellow 800, and text of white. Once again, if you don't know these things, no worries, it's just a very simple Tailwind things. So once again, Tailwind, a little difficult to write, I don't like this thing. So margin x of 4, and that's it. Let's see. Okay, that's good, nice little bar. Then for here I just need to say, hey, margin bottom will be 10, so that there will be little, yeah, margin. Cool, this is good. And this is the about page, we don't have anything here, so we can say we don't say anything. Now finally let's do this thing. So this is our GitHub, which is inside this github.tsx, and first I will do a tail div because I want this to be at the center. So import Tailwind from @Tailwind, and here I say class of Twind. Once again, I don't like this way of writing it. And I say flex and justify content center. Justify center, and then another div I need, because I need to do margin of auto. This will make this at the center. You can see now it is at the center. Okay, and that's good. Now let's go inside this one. So I just copy this import. So go to the search one and have it here. Then we need to define the class for this, and this is what? This is input field. So Twind, and yeah, same thing. I don't like border, rounded, and shadow of medium, padding of 4, let's say, and that's it, I think. Yes, this is okay. This is just okay thing, not good. But what I like to have is x of 4 but y of 2 only, and copy this and design this button. So button will have, once again, border, rounded, padding, adding, everything is good. Then bg of blue 600 and text of white, and let's have 800. Cool. Just a margin on the left, margin left of 4. Yes. So search user by search GitHub user by username. So we need to make sure it has a proper width of, let's say, 92. Is there any 92? No, 74, I think. This is not good because I'm not having the autocomplete. Yeah, 72 is good. Now this is nice. And if I say Sarthak Savvy search, you can see we have the name and the image. So I just want to have design this image and then design the name. So once again, copy this thing. On the image part, I say border is okay, shadow, everything is good. Then we have to have the width of, let's say, 34, I think, and height of same 34 if it is available, 34 if it is available. Then once again, let's search for Bitfumes. It is quick, so it's not having 32. 34 is not there. 32 Bitfumes. Okay, this is good. And next is this one, and let's have some class like here, and I just want to give margin here, margin top of 10, and for this p tag I give I say like text of 2xl and text center, and I say username is something like this. Bitfumes search, boom, it is here. Image should be also at the center, so I can make it flex and then say justify center. So Bitfumes, anyways, it has to be, these things has to be on this anchor tag. Cool. Lots of different designings are there. I don't know if you like it or not. Anyways, so username is this, and image is this. I don't like, I think the previous one is good. Okay, so we have it, and we are doing this with all these informations. Okay, so that's good, and I think we can like end this fresh framework tutorial or fresh framework course at this point, because it is having a lot of information like home page, about page, searching, rendering, Preact, the backend thing with the handlers, the post request, get request, island things. A lot of important information are there. So if you like this course, then give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and let's see what we have next in our Bitfumes YouTube channel. If you have any request for me to create videos on that, just comment below and comment your views about this fresh framework. Is it going to be the futuristic framework? What else they need to add? It's just the starting, and I think it's going to be for the long time. So see you in some other videos. Then till then, goodbye, and make sure you subscribe. It's very important. We will meet in another video. Till then, goodbye.